Hello and welcome to Utah Tech Leads Chats with Candidates. Today we are talking to Nate Blouin, who is running for Senate District 13. How are you, Nate?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's another lovely day in Salt Lake City.
It's wonderful today out there. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for this office.
Yeah, so I am, as you said, running for Senate District 13, which is kind of the Sugar House, South Salt Lake, Mill Creek, Murray, a little bit of West Valley City area. My background recently is working in the renewable energy industry. So I worked for a trade association in the past that represents large wind and solar companies and environmental nonprofits. And I'm going to be doing similar work to that coming up here in the energy storage area. So really excited to keep working on environmental issues. That's kind of my passion. I've lived in Utah for 13 years. I came out here to ski a number of years ago and be close to the mountains. And so that really guides a lot of my perspectives, creating a really good quality place for people to live that, that have been here for years, that come for the economy and the access to outdoor recreation. Those are all critical concerns to me. So I'm really looking forward to working on energy issues and environmental issues in the legislature. Really passionate about voting rights and working towards protecting our vote by mail system and things along those lines, and of course addressing affordability and affordable housing and things along those lines.
So what got you into local Utah politics?
Yeah, so I've worked for a few campaigns in the past, kind of at all levels, from some federal race, even legislative races, and city races to mayoral races. So just seeing the opportunities there for people to get involved and make a difference has gotten me wanting to do the same. So I really see a lot of urgency around some of these issues I was just talking about, on environmental issues, with the drought situation we're facing here, and the Great Salt Lake. I think there's so much we need to be working on to make change in the near term on these things that I haven't seen the legislature addressing with the speed that I want to. So that's kind of what drew me in, was just seeing issues that I don't think we have decades to be worried about. We have to be at least starting to think about them and make plans for the future now, or it's going to be too late.
And do you think that you will be effective doing that kind of advocacy work as a state senator?
I'm hoping so. I'm going to do my best. I'm open to sitting down with anyone who's willing to work in good faith on these issues. Republicans, Democrats, whoever. Obviously, I'm a Democrat, but we've got to work with the supermajority, or we're not going to get anything done. And so that's fine. That's the reality we're in. I know I've worked with some of the Republicans up there in the past. I have good relationships with them, and look forward to keep building off of those in this capacity, because I have seen people with a good perspective that truly want to get things done, and I'm happy to work with them. So that's my goal is I think we've got to take things in small chunks and see what we can address together and work forward from there. I don't think we need to be pressing for. I'd love to press for gigantic, big reforms, but the reality in Utah is you've got to take things in bite-sized pieces when you're coming from my perspective, and I'm happy to do that as long as we're moving the ball forward.
So what would be your top 3 policy concerns, and how would those and the work that you're planning on doing on those issues, how would that affect not only your district, but the state as a whole?
Yeah, so top 3, definitely environmental issues are my number one concern. That's a whole raft of things right now, from air quality in the Great Salt Lake. Those are kind of tied up right in one another, as we're seeing with this discussion about some potential toxic dust coming off the lake, which I'm really not happy about. So that's number one, is just trying to address those issues, making sure we're thinking about how to get water back in the Great Salt Lake. We are effectively, smartly allocating and thinking about our water usage so that we still have a place to live in 30 years or however long we've got to figure this out. So that's number one, is just working on that whole slew of issues, whether it's the energy system. That's kind of where my expertise lies, and definitely want to be involved there, or the drought and kind of air quality in the area. So public transportation, electric vehicles, want to be pushing for things that are going to make it easier to access those opportunities. Number two is voting rights. So I think the number one issue to me right there is making sure we protect the vote by mail system. We've seen some discussions from the other side about doing away with that, or at least attacking it in certain ways. And so far, thankfully, they haven't been seriously considered from a legislative perspective, and that's very heartening. But I think I still see plenty of negative rhetoric and talking about doing away with that system because of perceived insecurities, which I certainly haven't seen any data of. So that to me is big. Protecting the Independent Redistricting Commission and just making sure that we're making it easier, not harder, for people to vote. I think when everyone shows up and votes, that should be seen as a good thing. And we're, Utah's done a good job at that. So I think right now it's just protecting the status quo in Utah more than anything, and that's good. That's a positive angle to work on something from. And then the third issue, affordability. To me, the biggest piece that we can address as a state is housing affordability. So creating incentives for affordable housing development, reducing barriers to permitting and zoning at the local level. Those are going to be big deal. And just making sure that we're planning these communities smartly, that the legislature sets up communities to have the resources they need to create housing for their workforce and students and everyone up and down. Because right now people are finding it hard to live in communities they grew up in. I mean, I know, Utah considers itself a very family-friendly state, but kids who grew up here can't afford to live, within 20 miles of their parents in a lot of cases, and that's sad. So we need to be thinking about how to improve that situation. And was there a second piece of that?
Oh, that's great. That was awesome.
Okay, cool.
Tell us a little bit about your district, not just like the geography, but what the people in your district seem to be most concerned about, especially as you're knocking doors this election season.
Yeah, so we knocked 16,000 doors already in the primary. I think I knocked over 5,000. So I talked to a lot of folks, Democrats, because it was a primary. And so I'm looking forward to launching more into the larger electorate soon, probably after Labor Day, getting back out there. But yeah, people are, thankfully, people are concerned about the issues I'm concerned about that have drawn me into this. Talked a ton about air quality, and people are concerned about the public health impacts there. People want to raise families and have healthy kids, go outside and recreate, and those things become really concerning when we're seeing, thankfully this summer, it seems like we've had a really smoke-free summer, which is awesome. So at least from that perspective, we're doing all right, but we still got ozone we're dealing with, and we've got the winter inversions. And so people are seriously worried about that. The drought started coming up more and more throughout the election as we got into May and June. People were talking more about the drought, and so the Great Salt Lake became a huge concern, and I think we'll keep hearing that in the future. Roe v. Wade, happened a couple of days before the overturning of Roe v. Wade happened, just a couple of days before the primary election. We started hearing about that at almost every door. And so trying to preserve access for folks to the healthcare they need, that's something everyone's concerned about that I've spoken with so far, and certainly want to be, pushing back on the prevailing rhetoric in Utah on that front, because I think these are choices that people should make for themselves, that the state doesn't need to get involved in. And I think that's what I heard from a lot of folks. So those are probably two of the couple of the major ones. There's affordable housing, like I mentioned, is something. Homelessness gets kind of wrapped up in that, and those aren't necessarily the same issue. But in the Sugar House area and South Salt Lake, where there are shelters nearby, and people are moving back and forth across the streets as the city and the county do these abatement programs. People are concerned about the people moving in and out of their neighborhoods. So public safety issues, things like that. We're going to have to be trying to figure out, I think, compassionate ways to help that community out and make sure there's, both the affordable housing and also the deeply affordable housing, the emergency shelter beds and services. And I think the legislature can do a much better job of coordinating amongst the cities and stepping in there. And that's kind of what we heard is, people are sick of their cities just having to push people back and forth and kind of fight amongst one another, because that doesn't pan out well for anyone.
So why do you think you are the person for this job?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm willing to get out there and talk to people. I think that's a big deal. It's just being accessible, being visible, trying to hear from people directly what they are concerned about, and turn that into representation of the legislature. I think it's frustrating when you see people serving the public that just kind of do their thing and keep plugging away without really doing a lot of outreach. And whether it's on social media or actually getting out there and talking to people, I think they're both important. But just being up to date and in touch is key. And I think I am. I think I found when I was out knocking doors, it's easy to relate to people. I enjoy hearing their stories and trying to find solutions for them. And that to me is what the job is all about, is just taking your own perspective and then bringing in everyone else that you can find out there, and trying to create a better policy for whatever issue you're talking about. So I'm looking forward to being very accessible, and hopefully that's not easier said than done, but we'll take it as we go. So I'm excited to keep meeting folks, though.
Definitely. So talk to us a little bit about your youth, I would say. Husband and I make jokes all the time about these youths when we are actually the people that people are complaining about. So tell us a little bit about what you think being significantly younger than the average age of the Utah legislature will bring to the table.
Yeah, well, I think I am about the average age of a Utahn. So I think the average age of a Utahn is 30, 31 or so, maybe 32, and I'm 33. So that, I think that's a needed perspective. I forget what the average age of a legislator is. It's probably somewhere in the 60s. And I think you need, especially in a young state, you need to bring everyone to the table. So I'm a renter. I believe I'm potentially one of 2 renters that would be in the legislature, if I understand correctly. So that's to me an important perspective that we don't have up there. We've got kind of the flip side of that, but we don't have anyone who's actually dealing with the landlord tenant issues and trying to find housing every year and that sort of thing. So I think it's critical. It's critical to have people up there who are in the workforce and in touch with people who are still in their professional lives and not kind of in a position where they're owning a business or something. They're just out there working in the world. And so that to me is what it brings to the legislature, is just kind of a realistic perspective on what everyday Utahns are dealing with, and not kind of the people who have been in power for a long time. So hopefully that'll translate well to being able to advocate for some of those issues up at the Capitol.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything you want to add?
No, I appreciate everything Tech Leads is doing in Silicon Slopes. I think there's such a big opportunity for more involvement at the legislature. So I just ask everyone to reach out, whether it's to your legislator, to me, whoever it is. Definitely don't be afraid to advocate for the things that are important to you and your community and your industry. I think it's all good to have more involvement. That's one of the frustrating things to me over the years, is seeing people, the legislature, who don't value public opinion. When we have ballot initiatives, there's been movements to overturn them, and I think that's sad. I think when the people speak up and try to represent themselves and work hard to do it, we should do our best to represent that. So I would ask you just to be involved and reach out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Nate Blouin, Senate District 13. And we look forward to talking to you very soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.